Hello and welcome into the Right Angle Sports NBA betting preview. I'm John Martin, and that man right there is going to take us through the entire association. We're going to go through every single team as we get ready for the regular season, which kicks off on Tuesday. A little bit more preseason to get through before then, but this is a show about the regular season. And so as we go through these teams, obviously, you're going to want to be paying attention because you may learn a thing or two, and you may find a couple of bets within them. So, Eddie Walls, as always, good to see you, my friend. Let's get it going here, and we're going to kind of work down the list, division by division, in the NBA, and we'll start with the Southeast Division in the Eastern Conference and the Atlanta Hawks. What do you think about the Hawks this year?
Yeah, I'm selling them pretty much all the way across the board. I bet under regular season win total, 36.5 under. That's the first play I'm going to give you. It's going to take a lot. First of all, they would have to be better than last year. I don't think they're better than last year. I know a lot of people say, well, Trey and Murray kind of did the same thing. First of all, you would have to have a Trey Young that's healthy for 70 games probably. I haven't seen that in a few years. Secondly, you're asking a lot of Jalen Johnson to become a much improved player overnight. Hunter's going to have to step up and start scoring more. And then what's your bench look like? Once you get past Nkanwu, you have the rookie Rosache. He seems like a project. And then you're getting right into the Wesley Matthews territory. Any kind of injury here to the starting five is going to be super detrimental. You have three centers and a Quinn Snyder run offense. Why they felt the need to get a Dyson Daniels, and I don't really see a lot of upside in him. These are all project guys that are on their bench. The division's gotten better. Orlando's gotten better. Miami's Miami. Charlotte, you could probably argue, is getting better. I just don't see how they've improved. They won 36 last year. I don't know. I mean, it's a run and gun team that's going to have to score, and I don't think that they have the same scoring capability of last year. I think Saddiq Bey was a big loss for them. I think that Murray did a lot of things in clutch time for them. Young's inconsistent with his shot selection. I love the coach. That's about all I like about this team. So yeah, I'm definitely selling Atlanta.
Yeah, especially when you sort of go through the lens of the division, which as I'm sure we'll touch on here, is either getting better or already is better.
Right.
So absolutely wouldn't argue with you there. All right, moving down the list, the Charlotte Hornets, who have LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball has been playing the preseason, and he at least has looked good. So now we get to sort of see this idea of he and Brandon Miller. What do you make of the Hornets?
Well, and I liked first of all, everybody that knows me is laughing as we're going to discuss Charlotte, because a lot of people know that I'm pretty damn good at regular season win totals and pretty okay at futures, but Charlotte has been my Achilles heel for 2 years consecutive. I've absolutely gotten burned on them preseason every single time. So I'm staying away from any preseason bets with them. But I mean, let's face it, they have an incredible starting five. I think Bridges is Bridges. I mean, he's one arrest away from not being there. LaMelo's LaMelo. He's one ankle injury from not being there. But if these guys stay healthy with any kind of, resurgence or any kind of leap year from Miller, that really excites me. The new coach excites me. Grant Williams being there for a full year off the bench excites me. What doesn't excite me is Mark Williams is already out. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the guy. Looked like rookie of the year candidate a couple of years ago, and now his back is just messed up. Can't really count on him. I mean, like I said, they're an arrest and an ankle injury away from tanking for the number one pick mid-January. If they stay healthy, then they're a contender to make the playoffs or a play-in. Takes a leap of faith to have that kind of insight, though. I don't think I'm ready to take it 3 years in a row.
Yeah, seems fair. Moving on to the Miami Heat. They're always in the mix. Doesn't matter if they're the play-in. Doesn't matter. They usually are the play-in. But they're basically running it back. I mean, they added Rozier there sort of at the deadline. Obviously, Jaquez feels like a guy that's maybe primed for a big jump in the second year. Was definitely one of the better rookies in the league last season. What does Miami's ceiling look like this year, Eddie?
It's a very good question. They're always consistently 46 to 49 wins every single year. They brought in a little bit of scoring. I like Alex Burks off the bench there. I like Rozier's scoring. I like the upside of Ware, giving Bam some minutes on the bench if needed. I think there could be a leap with Jovic. Jaquez showed that he's a capable starter last year. and you probably have the best coach in the NBA. That being said, I don't know if Butler and Spo necessarily care too much about the regular season. So that always makes it dicey. It's more of get it to the playoffs, and we'll show you what we're made of then. And also, bringing in more scoring really, really helps this team. But at the same time, you have such a defensive-minded coach. He puts players in boxes. He puts your best player in a box. I mean, he's not going to let you score. And that leads to some pretty funky results throughout the year. Yep. They're not my favorite team to lay points with, I'll tell you that. So they're more of a stay away from me in preseason. If I was going to play anything with Milwaukee, and I did toy around with it, I did consider taking them with a long shot to win the Eastern Conference because they do have that kind of ceiling. The problem is, once again, is what's the seeding going to look like come playoffs if they don't care about, the regular season. And also the division's getting better. The conference is getting better. Butler's getting older. Still one of the most effective two-way players in the game, though. You can't take that away from him. So, yeah, I like Miami. I just don't have any kind of upside in taking anything with them futures-wise or regular season total-wise.
Yep, seems fair to me. One of the most underrated moves I thought this offseason, and you know him well, was Orlando grabbing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. When you watched them in the playoffs last year, you kind of felt like that was sort of the one thing they were missing was that veteran presence. They were leaning on guys like Gary Harris, who just at this stage in his career is not really prepared to offer that much. How high would you say you are on the jump for the Magic in Paolo's third season here?
I'm not that high. I'll tell you why. Okay, I love Orlando. I love Mosley. I think that they are probably the best defensive team in the NBA, front to bottom. I really, really like what I saw last year. They made such a leap. I mean, the only problem I have with them is that they didn't add scoring. I really thought they needed a more 3 guy, not a 3-and-D guy. They have enough D. Yeah. I love KCP, but I mean, how much D is overkill? I mean, how is this team a better playoff team than they were last year? So you have more defensive intensity. If you would have gone out and grabbed, I mean, as strange as it sounds, even somebody like Levine or Kuzma or somebody like that, somebody that really gives you just somebody that you can have as a reliable 3-point shooter and just give you maybe 10 more points a game would have got me much more excited. But at the same time, I'm not looking to fade this team at all in the regular season. This is a team built for the regular season on a night-to-night basis. You're going to get full effort. You're going to get great coaching. And I'm still a little bit concerned about Suggs leading the way on the guards. I mean, their guard play is decent. It's not great.
Yeah.
I just wish they had a better shooting point guard, to be quite honest with you. And somebody that can create doubles and get guys open for more scoring would have really excited me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, on a night-to-night basis, you're probably not going to find a better effort team.
Yeah, a lot of people said that the Magic, they were linked quite a bit, but that they should have added Clay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean,
I don't agree with that, but I understand it.
Right.
I mean, that's the kind of player that I would have liked to see them get.
Right.
I just think that Clay, with his salary and his age, will get to Dallas. I don't think that he's necessarily a positive. And not only that, I think that he needs the ball too much for this kind of system. I mean, it's a defensive-oriented system. You already have 2 great playmakers in Wagner and Paolo. Do you really need Klay Thompson throwing up 15 threes a game and going 6 for 15 on those and then giving up the defense? I don't know.
Agreed. And then finally, the Washington Wizards, who are already actually mathematically eliminated from playoffs. Can they be better? I mean, is that really?
No. Okay. No, absolutely not. That's a regular season win total I bet under, and I'll give it right now. 21.5 under is a very big play for me. I don't know how they move forward. This is possibly the funkiest lineup I've ever seen. If the preseason lineup is what the starting rotation is going to be, Valanciunas, Sarr, and Koulibaly mixed with Poole and Kuzma, that is such a bizarre lineup that I can't recall a lineup being worse than that. And then, I mean, the bench, even if you're tanking, I don't think the bench has I think Kispert should probably be in front of Poole, first of all, or something along those lines. Kispert is much more consistent. Poole has the worst contract probably in the entire NBA. It's up there at least. I don't see any upside whatsoever. I mean, Marvin Bagley coming off the bench. They have all these 7-footers. Holmes and Bagley are the same player.
Yep.
I only have them favored like 4 times this entire season, and that's giving them some credit. They have big contracts that they can't move. They have a bunch of projects that they're going to have to use throughout the year to see what they have. I would call it a rebuild, but we're in like 5 years of rebuilding with them. I think that they're the worst team in the NBA. They might be historically bad too. They only won 15 games last year. I made the regular season win total 17, and that was giving Koulibaly some leap and giving Sarr the benefit of the doubt, even though he looks absolutely horrid on offense. I don't know how anybody's making him rookie of the year, like almost chalk. That seems unbelievable to me. I don't know if they've watched his game or if they're just going by him being the number 2 pick, but I don't see it, man. He looks.
No, I thought he looked really, really rough.
Yeah, he's he's just very raw. I mean, It's going to take a couple of years before he really develops into anything for me.
Exactly right. Real quick, while we're in the division, Shade. I mean, do you like what you've seen from him?
I mean, his shot is weird. It's funky, right?
Yeah.
When I look at it, it doesn't look clean. It looks like it's going to be a work in progress. Do I like what he gives Atlanta? I mean, he can run, which is good in the Snyder system for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of like him at plus 850 because he's probably one of only 2 starters that are going to play every single night. So I mean, like, I definitely lean that way. I mean, plus 850 is a pretty damn good number on a guy that you know is going to start when most of the rookies aren't.
Exactly.
So yeah, I definitely see upside in that rookie of the year future there for him. My only concern really is if Atlanta's bottom falls out and they start talking about trading Trey or Capella, start making a lot of moves, he's going to get the minutes for sure. But if they're like a 21 to 25 win team, and he's averaging maybe 8 to 12 points a game, I don't know if you get there.
No, he would not get there.
It's a tough struggle. You know what I mean? Like all of the rookies this year, there's not like a single rookie that I looked at this year and I was like, wow, this can make a huge impact on a team. Last year, there were multiple guys. This year, it feels like this might have been the worst draft in 20 years or something.
Yeah, I'll say this on the record: the best Wizards draft pick was of this past draft was their second one, Bub Carrington.
I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Yeah, he's a dog. I absolutely believe he's going to be a really good NBA player. I think he'll have a better career than Sarr at the end of it. So I don't know what his usage is going to be. Obviously, it's a horrible team, so it should be pretty good.
It'll be pretty high. By the end of the year, he might be playing 25 minutes a game.
Exactly.
So.
Bub Carrington is the one to watch for me. All right, moving on, Eddie, to the Atlantic Division in the Eastern Conference. They're the champs. They're the reigning champions. They're obviously favored to do it once again. The Boston Celtics, Eddie. They're running it back. No Porzingis for a little bit, but what do you make of these Celtics?
I mean, like, there's really no downside in this team at all. The only thing that I can possibly think of is just championship hangover, which we've seen a lot in the past. But I mean, this looks like the building of a dynasty. They're willing to pay over the apron. I don't dislike anything about this team, other than one of my best friends is absolutely annoying with his fandom of him. But I mean, Kareem, if you're out there, just stop it. I know they're the best ever. I mean, like, okay. So like, let's just talk about like how they don't repeat. Okay. So Porzingis doesn't come back for quite some time. Doesn't look himself. Right. Horford is very, very old, and they play in a conference and in a division with very good bigs. That being said, their guard play front to back is absolutely great. Pritchard really made a step last year off of the bench. He could take over a starting role if anybody were to go down. You're gonna have to have injuries. That's all it's going to come down to. If you're fading this team, you're thinking they can't repeat, then you're basically just banking on them not being healthy. I mean, I didn't like the coach. I didn't like the coaching hire, and he proved to be an absolute menace and put on some great sermons for post-game stuff. So if you like listening to post-game stuff, I mean, that guy's a motivator. I got nothing here. I mean, like, I can't really go over the regular season win total because let's face it, they might not care especially if they're coasting. I can't really play them at championship odds because it's just not that great a value. I'm not looking to fade him on a night-to-night basis. Yeah, I don't see any downside in Boston whatsoever. I mean, if you're playing them, I mean, I guess it's probably one of the safer chalk bets that I've faced in a long time, but I'm not willing to do it. I mean, it's just not priced properly for me to get involved.
I couldn't argue. We were talking about the Wizards, a team that will probably also be in contention with them for the bottom here. At the race to the bottom would be the Brooklyn Nets, who have stripped this thing pretty much all the way bare. Is there anything for you here with these Nets?
No, I don't have anything. I mean, like I toyed around with the regular season win total over because they're not terrible. I mean, they still have some players. I mean, they still have Cam Thomas. They still have Cameron Smith. I mean, they still have great Claxton. They have Claxton in the middle, who's great. I mean, they're priced because of their schedule. This is absolutely horrible, the schedule that they have to face on a night-to-night basis, especially in this division. I mean, Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton isn't the worst three of the starting five I've seen in a long time. So it would only be over on a regular season win total. And I mean, you don't know when you're going to get Bogdanovic back.
Right.
The bench is pretty bad. Schroeder isn't a starting point guard for 29 other teams, more than likely. But I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's going to be a really, really rough go, and they're starting over with like a brand new head coach and everything like that. That can go both ways. It's just a pass for me, but there might be some upside in playing against the spread, because if they're priced this bad in the market preseason, I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. I mean, I don't think they're Washington, and they're priced worse than Washington. So
yeah, they just got to find a way to get Germany Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah.
I mean, if they get that guy, he looks like the best player in the league when he plays for Germany.
Yeah, he's an Olympic guy.
Yeah. He gets up
and
but yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't really think anything about this. I mean, it's clear what most of these teams at the bottom are trying to do, right? They're trying to put themselves in position to draft the kid from Duke, Cooper Flag. So it's a good year to do it. There's no doubt about it. And on the other end of that spectrum are the New York Knicks, who are by every definition going for it. They make the deal for Karl Anthony Towns, obviously Mikal Bridges. They are pushing their chips in the middle, as they say in poker, Eddie. Do you think they'll get there? Is there going to be a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow for the Knicks?
I don't know. I got questions. I don't really quite understand the Cat trade. How is he much better of a fit for Thibs' system than what they already had? I don't know why they gave up Dante DiVincenzo. I guess you don't need him because you already have Bridges, you already have Hart. But I really felt that was an odd move. It didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. It still doesn't. And then
people said money. I mean, that was the argument, that you're getting off of the money there with Randall, and you don't have to make that decision.
Cat makes a lot of money too. I mean, I don't think that. If not only that, if you're going for it, are you really concerned with the budget when Boston's like willing to pay over the apron? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Also, I just have major issues with this bench, especially if Robinson is going to be out for an extended amount of time. I mean, how much are you expecting from Precious Achiuwa? I mean, is Jericho Sims going to give you serious minutes in November, December, all the way to January?
You're asking a lot.
Right. I mean, and then Cameron Payne is, going to fit in somewhere. These are all Thibs guys, by the way. These are all defensive first guys. And I don't think of Thibs as like a warrior when it comes to playoff basketball. He's going to have to show it to me at some point. He hasn't yet. And not only that, he doesn't prepare his teams for playoff basketball. He'll have his starters in 40 minutes, in game 80. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. He's a very, very weird coach, and he's so intense, especially like in preseason and kind of meaningless games. I don't think he knows how to turn it off and rest his players properly. So he's probably, he's always a pretty damn good regular season win total over, but that's priced in this year with them going for it. Yeah. I don't have anything on this team personally. I know somebody that's very, very interested in Jalen Brunson MVP stuff. OG as defensive player of the year. Those are all really big futures and kind of long shots that feel crazy to me personally. I guess I can see it. The effort's going to be there on a night-to-night basis. That's for sure. That's right. They're probably a good ATS team. Yeah. But as far as futures, I just didn't have anything.
Yep. Couldn't disagree with you there. Philadelphia 76ers going for it in sort of their own way, bringing over Paul George. I mean, everybody's just kind of taking their shot, right? This is just an arms race to try to take a shot at the Celtics here. We already have Paul George banged up. He's already injured. Joel Embiid saying he's not playing back-to-back. So, I mean, what does this look like for Philly? We're already kind of seeing some cracks in this thing.
Yeah, I really want to fade this team in regular season win totals. It doesn't sound to me like they're a regular season team. It sounds to me like they're all in on making the playoffs and making a deep run. I don't like the Embiid quotes at all about not playing back-to-backs. I mean, I knew that's obvious to anybody that follows his career trajectory anyway. But I also wonder if that holds true for Paul George later in the season. And then we just have Maxey out there with, I mean, we still have Lowry in the starting lineup, for God's sakes. I mean, that's you can't tell me you're all in and Lowry's your starting point guard. That's just nuts. And the bench is really, really weak. I mean, they bring over Reggie Jackson from Denver. He was a no factor last year. Oubre gives you something. But I mean, we still have Eric Gordon, Lowry, Paul George. These are all really, really aging vets.
Yep.
If they're going to win it, then they're going to have to do it this year because they got a lot of payroll with a lot of dead weight on it, in my opinion, if it doesn't work out this year. And you're banking on Embiid and Paul George being healthy for an entire season, basically.
Right.
So, yeah, I really toyed with it. That being said, Nick Nurse is probably a top 5 coach, maybe even higher in my book. I really, really like everything that he does. I just didn't find a lot of value in playing under with all those superlatives. I'm pretty much right on the number. So it was kind of a pass for me. I don't think they're better than the Knicks. I don't think they're better than a healthy Boston.
Yep.
That being said, they do have a special coach. They have arguably a top 3 player in the NBA and an emerging superstar guard in Maxey. They have one of the better two-way players in George. It's going to take health, and it's going to take something to happen around the deadline for them to add something to this bench. Because I look at this bench now, it's cooked. It's not good.
Yeah, couldn't disagree. What are the Raptors doing? What are the Toronto Raptors trying to accomplish this season?
Well, I gave you guys the regular season win total on accident during our college football show, and I bet under 32.5. I said it, and the next morning it was 30.5. So I guess somebody does watch us.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Somebody was watching. For those that don't know, Jacob Podol, the center, came out and said that they were not planning on trying to attempt to win a championship this year. It was all about developing younger players. And that would make a lot of sense, especially with the trajectory of what they have. I do like their bench a lot more than most benches. I do have problems with Barrett being injured already. I do have problems with Quickly being banged up multiple times last year. I didn't understand why they needed Davion Mitchell. That doesn't really make a lot of sense for me, especially when Grady Dick showed what he was capable of last year towards the end of the season. Very good shooter. Bruce Brown off the bench. I imagine he gets moved because he makes a lot of money. And this is if they're not competing for a championship, keeping him around seems like a mistake. So he gets moved at some point, I would imagine. Olnick gives you a good center. I don't know why Chris Boucher gets so many minutes in this system. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I guess it's probably because Podol's always banged up or maybe doesn't want to play as much as he did. So yeah, under is still there for me. I only made the regular season win total 25.5. 30.5 would probably still a bet for me. It's probably just not as big as 32.5. Anything could happen in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Still good value for sure. Yeah. It's just 32.5 was so good that now it feels weird to say 30.5, you know?
Right. Been there. But there are people in the chat. So for the people in the chat, you would still say 30.5 under good.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. There you go.
If you had the chance to get 32.5 a week ago, getting 30.5 doesn't feel like quite the bargain.
That's right. All right. Last division here in the Eastern Conference before we move on to the West. Again, we're doing an entire NBA preview today here before the regular season kicks off on Tuesday. We're going to go over to Central. We'll start with the Chicago Bulls, who are integrating Lonzo Ball back into the lineup, add Josh Giddey. I know we've talked about this Bulls team. What do you make of them?
Yeah, I like them. Okay, so first of all, I shouldn't say I like them. Like, I don't love them. but I am completely lost on how they're going to be 7 or 8 games worse than last year. I think DeMar DeRozan is a great player, but if you get Levine back, he's kind of the same player, and they just took shots away from one another. I'm not a huge fan of Josh Giddey, but I mean, Alex Caruso was always hurt, and he's more of a D guy. He didn't make a lot of sense in that lineup to begin with. Ayo can make a leap, especially if he's starting. White made a leap last year, probably should have won 6th man of the year, in my opinion, but they didn't win enough games. But the bench, that's what I think is really kind of important. They added Smith, the backup center from Indiana, and he's a quality backup for sure. And if you get any kind of minutes that are quality from Patrick Williams, who looks healthy every single preseason and never ends up being healthy, if you can get 40 games from him and from Lonzo Ball, you're in pretty damn good shape. And then they can mix and match off the bench really well. They've got Duarte, they've got Carter. They can play D, they can play O off of their bench. I just hate their coach so much. He's absolutely pitiful. And they're going to have to score more than they did in the past previous seasons. He is very incapable of running great offenses. That being said, I cannot get close to this number. They won 39 last year. They're going to fall off a cliff and lose 13 games more than last year. I don't see how. So yeah, over 27.5 was a good bet for me. I liked it, and I still like it a lot.
One other I would sort of just add on top of that, just as a long shot, because I really liked what I saw from him in the Olympics, and then just with the sort of narrative piece of it, just trying to prove himself after kind of getting shipped out of OKC, would be Josh Giddey as most improved player at 17-1. Wow. I mean, obviously there are going to be a lot of players that qualify for that, but I just think, again, on a team that doesn't necessarily have title aspirations, they like him. They acquired him for a reason. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities that maybe he wasn't getting in Oklahoma City. So I'm a believer. I'm a buyer in Josh Giddey. I think he's going to have a great year.
His shot looks so pure in the preseason. It's unbelievable. It looks like he looks like a different player. But that being said, he is playing for a bottom 5 coach, and that bottom 5 coach is panicky. And when that coach falls behind, he does a lot of weird things with the bench. And I would be very, very concerned about taking, I guess 17-1, I'm pretty happy with taking anything.
Right.
I'd be very, very worried about Ball coming back, being semi-healthy,
right,
and not getting enough minutes to qualify for those kind of things. So that would be my only trepidation there.
No, for sure.
But I mean, if you're getting Ball over Giddey and a healthy Ball, I'm sorry, Giddey, you're going to have to be on the bench for a bit. No, I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah. All right. New coach in Cleveland. And we've kind of seen, a little bit of a preview of what it could look like in the preseason. But it is a new coach for a team that obviously, wants to kind of start cashing in with their guys here in the Cavaliers. What do you make of these Cavs?
Yeah. So I have a couple of bets for this team. First of all, I think that it was the best coaching hire of the offseason. And I think that no other coaching hire will do more for one player than what Atkinson can do for Mitchell. Wow. I think he'll get him in space. I think he'll unlock that offense quite a lot. The biggest problem I have with Cleveland is their bench, and injuries of any kind are going to be very important to watch. So that doesn't make me love taking a regular season win total over with a team like this, but it does interest me in taking the division. So if they can stay healthy, I don't like having to pay -110 when I can take +200 on basically the same bet. So if they win 50 games or 51, 52 games, I think they win this division. And I like +200 for them to win this division. I think that Allen and Mobley, they weren't healthy the last couple of years. If they can maintain semi-good health, they're a force. I think that Strus getting a larger role in this offense is good. I think Darius Garland, along with Mitchell, is a tough backcourt to defend. You're going to throw out a little bit of defense and sacrifice it for offense in this system, obviously. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, especially in this division, maybe even in this conference. The biggest problem I have, though, is Karis LeVert is going to end up playing some games. Let's just face it. He's mostly an offensive guy. Okoro, I still don't know where he fits. Dean Wade couldn't stay healthy the last couple of years. He's a great defensive guy. I don't know if he fits in this system. And Merrill, is a wonderful shooter when he's on and a terrible shooter when he's off.
Yep.
So this is what I got for you. I'm going to take Cleveland plus 200. I'm going to take Atkinson, coach of the year, half unit on each. Atkinson, you can go ahead and just like price that however you want. You can shop it around, find the best price you can, but you're looking at like a plus 1,200 to a plus 1,500 arc. I feel that that's pretty damn valuable. If they get top, if they win this division, he's likely to win coach of the year. I feel that strongly that he's that good of a coach. And I feel that strongly that this is a really, really good team that's underachieved with a terrible coach, which we'll turn our heads to next.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the Detroit Pistons, who have made a new hire. It's JB Bickerstaff. Mixed results in the preseason. They've been tinkering with some different combinations. A lot of young talent, but I don't know about the direction. Seems like you are skeptical of that operation as well.
I mean, it is easily the worst ran organization in the NBA, and the fact that I don't understand anything that they do ever. They're paying like $100 million to 3 different coaches this year. And you get rid of Monty, and then you bring in Bickerstaff. Why? Like, what has Bickerstaff ever shown you to where you're like, that's the guy that will right the ship? I mean, come on, what are we talking about? And then you have all these young superstars that are emerging. I mean, Cade looks brilliant last year when he's healthy. Duran, great center.
Yep.
I mean, Ivy really turning into quite the shooting guard. I mean, plays both good defense and offense. Thompson looks like a wonderful defender. And then you go out and sign Tobias Harris for a lot of money. You bring in Hardaway, who makes absolutely no sense whatsoever in the system. Where does he fit in? Why do you need him? Paul Reed was a nice adventure. And then you go out and get a great defensive player in the draft that plays the same exact position as Oscar Thompson. So you basically got Oscar 2.0, like the same exact player. None of it makes any sense to me whatsoever. I just don't see any value in betting anything with them preseason. I'm at 23.5 on their regular season win total, and that's giving them credit for not tanking, because they've tanked like the last 3 years. You think that they'd be over it when you tank and never get better than the 5th pick. Right. I mean, I don't understand why you tank every single year if you never get anything for it. I mean, that's just bad luck on their end, I guess. But I mean, they've kind of done it to themselves. I mean, this team shouldn't have been tanking last year to begin with, but you brought in such a bad head coach to coach a bunch of young guys who didn't have any experience doing so. And then you bring in Bickerstaff, who has underachieved with great talent all around him his entire career. I don't get it. I'm just not buying them being that much better than last year.
Yeah.
Just a pass all the way around. They were good last year against the spread when they were tanking, and that gave me some hope towards some of the young guys on the bench. But they probably cut their minutes this year, right? So that way Hardaway and Harris can get them. So I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I couldn't make a case for him. There's no question. Could it be plucky against the spread again? I don't know, but yeah, don't really know what they're doing up there. Indiana made an Eastern Conference Finals appearance last year, and they're mostly bringing everybody back. I mean, the vibes are really good. The pace is really good. The tempo continues to be good. Is this rocket ship going to just keep climbing for the Pacers, Eddie?
I mean, you basically just nailed it. I mean, really, really good trajectory. And people forget that they lost. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they were without arguably their top third best player, and Mathurin, who could definitely make a leap this year. Neesmith can make a leap this year. Halliburton is absolutely great. He's probably my favorite player to watch offensively in the NBA. Their bench is deep. McConnell makes a lot of sense. Every single time he comes in the game, he gives them something. Toppin's good. I did not like the fact that they lost Smith, the backup center. Miles Turner has really struggled to stay healthy throughout his career. Last year was the first time that we saw him play like a complete season for the most part. I'm right on the number as far as their regular season win total. I don't think they're quite as talented as Cleveland. I like their coach. Unbelievable coach. I think Carlisle's really top 5, top 10.
Yes.
He's really proved to me too that he can switch systems on the fly. Last year, he was a straight over in the first half, and then the ref started calling games differently. And he threw Siakam, and Siakam put plenty of people in the blender. And I mean, Siakam's going to get a full season in this system. I really, really like them. I do worry a lot about Turner, though. Like, that's just something I can't ignore. Now that you don't have a quality backup for him,
Right.
it really, really bothers me. Isaiah Jackson is going to get far too many minutes in this system. And it's also a team to where, and let's face it, Halliburton hasn't been healthy every single year. I mean, he's an MVP player for sure if he can stay healthy. He's got some problems with staying healthy, though. So, yeah, I don't know. I really flirted with them to win this division, too, just because the next team I absolutely just dislike with such a passion. So.
Well, don't forget about James Wiseman. James Wiseman is in Indiana to resurrect his career.
I mean, I would like to see that. I root for him. I really do. I think that he's kind of gotten a raw deal numerous times.
I agree with you totally.
And I mean, he looked really, really good last year playing for a tank team.
Yep.
And I really, really like that guy just in general. He's so humble over the fact that he started off his career just being called a bust so many times.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm rooting for him, and I'm rooting for Indiana in general. They're a good story. They got a lot of good feel-good players on their team.
One thing really quickly on him, I definitely think that it was more of the Golden State organization failing him than the other way around. Because if you remember, it was that freak year where they picked second. They were never supposed to have the number 2 pick, right? They were never supposed to have that. And they had this sort of title timeline. And as opposed to because this is one of the things that Kerr has never had to do. Kerr has never had to really develop young players. He's trying to do it with Kuminga. It's been a little clumsy, but it felt more so like they were just angry at James, for not being on their timeline, right? But like, what did you expect? You're drafting a guy that played 3 games in college, as a freshman, and you're expecting him to come in and all of a sudden just be ready to contribute to a championship team. I just felt like when we're diagnosing that, it was on the Golden State Warriors end of it as opposed to James. So maybe Carlisle can find it with him.
Would you feel comfortable with him starting 25 games, though, and betting a regular season win total over in that system?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean,
that's my point. I'm rooting for him, but I'm not looking to place a lot of money on.
It's a feel-good story.
Not looking to place a lot of money on like Turner staying healthy and Wiseman taking the leap and taking over his step. You know what I mean? These are real dollars we're talking about.
Exactly
here.
right.
No. Seems like a nice guy, but I mean, let's not get carried away.
No, this is Hallmark sentimental. This is going to the window, right? So yes. And then finally, I mean, you want to talk about a team that is just deprived of any young talent at all coming up the pipeline, that's just hanging on to the last days, it feels like. The Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, so this was my biggest regular season win total bet. I bet it multiple times at 51.5. I think I may have driven down the market at one place for sure, but 50.5 I would still take. I made the regular season win total 45, and that was giving them the benefit of the doubt of a lot of good health and Giannis winning like MVP almost. So let's just talk about it like really quick. Middleton is already hurt. That's just the biggest red flag in the world. And then you have absolutely no bench. So let's say Lillard and Giannis are Lillard and Giannis, and they play 70 games. Gary Trent is now your starting shooting guard. And he's hurt too. He's already banged up. Lopez is 37 years old, I believe, 38. Middleton is around that age as well. And then let's look at the bench. So we have Connaughton, Taurean Prince, Crowder, Gerald Green, and DeLeon Wright. Any injury to the starting 5, you literally looking at a minimum league contract with Doc Rivers as your head coach.
Yep.
I don't think that they care one bit about the regular season. I'm sure they care about winning games on TNT, but that's about as much as I can possibly give them credit for. I would say that they're less talented than Indiana. I would definitely say they're less talented in their starting 5 than Cleveland. And I don't have a bench to work with. This is what you have. This is it. Like, they don't have any cap room. They don't have any trade pieces.
Yep.
This is your season. Like, you're not going to get like a big surprise. And I don't know if Lillard is happy in Milwaukee. He looked disinterested at times last year.
Sure did.
And the whole entire pick and roll system just failed. I don't know if they worked that out this year. I just have too many questions. They're my least favorite team to watch. They're my least favorite team to back. Yeah, I mean, I really feel like the bottom could fall out on this team with any kind of injury.
Yep.
So yeah, 50.5 was far too high for me.
I would also add to the skepticism. The whole idea was sort of the last bang was let's go acquire Dame, and let's see what we can get out of this. Well, they didn't get a ton of work last year together. It was clumsy. They were trying to figure it out. And then they got no work this offseason because Giannis was in the Olympics. He was competing in Paris and the qualifiers as well before that. And then he got married in September. So those two have had absolutely no work together this offseason, in a year where it was already kind of clumsy with them both. So I'm with you 100%. And it's still Doc Rivers,
They just look sloppy to me. They look sloppy to me in preseason too. They really do. Just not a lot of cohesion.
Yep. Agree totally. Like it. So that's the East. And now we turn our attention to the West. And we'll start with the Southwest. Dallas Mavericks obviously made the finals last year and a bit of a surprise. Bring in Klay Thompson to go with Kyrie, Luka, and basically the same guys as a year ago. Obviously, they're gonna try to run it back and have similar results. Can they do that with this roster?
I don't know. I don't understand why they needed Klay Thompson. They got rid of Tim Hardaway and paid $100 million for Tim Hardaway. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Klay Thompson is just. I mean, he needs 18 threes a night or whatever, and I mean, like, how long can you stick him in the starting rotation if he's 0 for 7, in every first half for a month? And he's always trying to shoot his way out of a slump. He's aging. He doesn't play great defense. Where's the defense on this team? They had great defense cohesion last year. Then they get rid of Josh Green to bring in Klay Thompson. Doesn't make any sense to me. PJ Washington was an absolute nightmare to play against with down the stretch. He was the reason why this team was so good, to be in my opinion. I like the trajectory of him playing for a full year. I like Lively. I even like Gafford off of the bench. Everything kind of makes sense, but man, there's no way that I could bet over in the regular season win total. It's just not possible for me. And not only that, the guard depth is now really, really bad. I mean, we have Grimes who can shoot. That's about it. We have Hardy, Marshall, just not doing it for me. That being said, you get him to the playoffs with a healthy Doncic, a healthy Kyrie.
That's right.
Tough bastards to beat for sure. But I mean, I'm still completely lost to why they thought that they needed to pay $100 million to Klay Thompson. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yep, I like him. I don't love him, but I agree with your sentiment. You don't want to be fading them probably when you get into the postseason if you have healthy Luka. Yeah. I mean, that's a nightmare. I'm very interested in your perspective on this team because it just feels like they are totally primed and built for a big step, and that's the Houston Rockets. They had their dress rehearsal last night. I mean, Jalen Green couldn't miss. Dylan Brooks is doing what he does. You add Reed Shepherd as a rookie. Are you high on the Rockets?
I am. Yeah, I really am. Unfortunately, everybody else is too. I mean, the market is definitely proven that everybody's
we're not fooling anybody.
I mean, yeah. I mean, unless you were betting like, back in April or something like that. I don't know where you found the value. There's not a lot wrong with this team. The only problem I have is that Jabari Smith has not proven to take a leap like I thought he would. Sagan still doesn't play defense. Thompson I don't know where he finds his way in the rotation now, especially the F. Shepherd. There's some questions for sure, but you have a top 5 head coach. Jalen Green last year showed that he could take over games. They're super good. I don't have anything here. I don't really have anything to add that you didn't have already. I'm surprised that Udoka is coach of the year, though, because that would make them a 50-win team. I don't have them quite that high. Yeah,
agreed. But I think a step is coming for them for sure. Reed Shepherd, rookie of the year. Is he going to have the ball enough?
No, he's going to come off the bench. I don't. No. Can't do it. I don't care if he scores 12 points. I mean, he's not going to have any other stat other than threes. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna actually throw this one at you. You're going to do the next team for us.
Okay.
Which is Memphis.
Oh,
all
me.
Right? So, John,
yes.
John is the biggest Memphis Grizzly fan that I have ever actually met. So tell us about Memphis this year.
Yeah, so I mean, I think when you talk about a team that's kind of ready, I mean they're moving into that mode. I mean, you have the young pieces of Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams. You draft Zach Edey at the 5 spot, and now it just comes down to 3 guys. It comes down to Desmond Bane, it comes down to Jaren Jackson Jr., and it comes down to Ja Morant and the health of those 3. I think you probably put that core of 3 players up against most in the league when healthy. But it's a big question mark, and it is the thing that has sort of held the Grizzlies back. Ja having the off the court stuff. Now he had the shoulder last year, the surgery, but from everything I hear from his agent, from people around him.
You're talking to the agent, John?
I talked to his agent. I do know what happened to his agent. I got some connections around here, man. All right.
Okay. All right.
Doing my job.
That's why you're doing the preview, not me.
That's right. I just everybody really does expect a huge year for Ja. One thing I will say is a negative for them, though. I think Marcus Smart is damaged goods.
Okay.
I just don't think he's got a lot left, and they're really thin on the wing. You start getting into Marcus Smart. Gigi is not quite ready to be a full-time starter. Like, there's some promise, but I don't think he's ready to be a full-time starter. And Vince is hurt right now. I think Marcus Smart's best years are way behind him. A lot of mileage coming over from the Celtics, and I think he's going to play later tonight, but he just hasn't really looked good, Eddie, in the preseason. So if they're counting on him to kind of be a wing solution, I just don't really know, how much they're going to be able to do that. But I am high on Edey. I think from what they ask of him, he'll step in and be great. So I have the Grizzlies a playoff team. I think I did bet their over on wins, just because we know they do take the regular season very seriously when healthy. So I do like the Grizzlies, but man, they're a high variance bet to make, as you know, because they're Ja plays so recklessly that it could happen any night for him, and he could be out for 3 weeks.
Okay, that was a very, very good preview. These are my trepidations. Health. Gigi Jackson is hurt.
Yep.
Already. Vince Williams is hurt already. Like you said, Marcus Smart. I don't know what he has left in the tank. Ja Morant, shoulder injury. If this team gets healthy, stays healthy for an entire season, you're talking about a possible 1 to 3 seed. And that's why I bet them to win the division at plus 260 for a half unit. I also bet Jenkins to win Coach of the Year at plus 1,500. Like I said with Cleveland, I would rather take a team with these kind of health concerns, with this lack of a bench, at plus money instead of minus 110.
Right.
And also, I don't know how Edey fits into the system. He's clunky. He's not fast. He's definitely a good fit if you're looking for a good rebounder, and especially a good offensive rebounder. He's more of a cone, though, when it comes to spacing for this offense. I would prefer to see him come off the bench. If they're going to start him, I'm kind of selling this. That being said, I think that Jenkins is a very, very underrated coach. I think that this team has all the upside of 3 years ago, if they're healthy, and they could be a 1 seed. If they're not healthy, and then I've lost 1 unit, and I didn't pay any vig on it. So I feel much more comfortable with it than that route.
Yeah, love it. We're in agreement there for sure. It's just so high variance. And one thing I would say too about the Edey conversation, they are absolutely going to start him. And if he doesn't, that they don't have an answer behind him. Like,
what about Brandon Clark?
They have nobody behind him.
Why not Brandon Clark?
I guess they could use him at the 5, but I mean, they'd really move Jaren to the 5 and play Brandon before, but they don't want to do that. They've been so adamant about not doing that. Right. That, again, if forced, I guess they got to do what they got to do, but they don't have that true back. There's no Drummond, on this roster. Right. There's just no backup 5. So
I don't agree with him being chalk for Rookie of the Year. I'm going to be flat honest.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up.
I don't see him having the upside to scoring 15 points a game and 10 rebounds. And, I just don't.
Yep.
Like, I look at his game and he's probably a stat guy, but
yes,
I don't see him contributing year round and staying in that starting lineup every single game.
Exactly right.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, real quick on that point, because I'm glad you brought it up, because he is chalk right now. Go look back at all the past Rookie of the Year winners, right? Go look at all of them. For the most part, extremely high usage rates. I mean, to a man, with the exception maybe of Scotty Barnes that random year. And also mostly guards. That's part of it. If you don't have the ball in your hands, you don't have a high usage rate. This is not a team accomplishment award. Players on bad teams win these awards for the most part because they get to put up points and they have the ball in their hands quite a bit as rookies. There is no way you should be betting Zach Edey to win Rookie of the Year. And I think he's going to have a good year. It's just going to look like 9-7, 9-8 on a 49-win team. That's not going to be good enough to win that award. All right, moving right along. The Pelicans, for whatever reason, have decided to trade for DeJounte Murray and pair him with Brandon Ingram. I don't know why they think it'll work, but they do. Do you believe it works?
No, I bet under regular season win total 46.5 just for a smaller bet. Just because, my number is higher than this, but it can fall apart in so many different ways. Herb Jones is going to play the 5. That's crazy talk. So they're going to play without a center in a league, in a conference with nothing but great centers. And McCollum is really, really old now. He looked beat down by the time the playoffs got around. Zion, is he going to stay healthy? I don't know. What is the difference between Murray and Ingram? They're the same player. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Their bench is pathetic. Really, really bad. Jameson and Nisi have played no games. Robinson and Earl, never a factor in OKC. Ryan's a shooter. Any kind of injury whatsoever. We're looking at a G League kind of guy, two-way contracts kind of guys coming in and out of this lineup. I know somebody that said, hey, why not Zion for MVP? It's priced crazy. If they win this division and they make a force, how are they going to win the division, man? I don't know. I don't know how they get there. And I think they have a bad coach too. I don't think he's a good fit for anything on this team. He doesn't really seem to do anything that makes me say, wow, that was a good move. I may have said he was a good coach 2 or 3 years ago. Last year, he really just did not impress me whatsoever. So yeah, small bet there.
And then to round it out, the San Antonio Spurs in year 2 of Victor Wembanyama. It's amazing to me that once upon a time, every conversation about the greatest coach in the NBA, in the history of the NBA, if Pop's name wasn't first, it was second. And now we've completely forgotten about him. We don't talk about him in the same way. I guess it's just amazing, what can happen when you don't have Tim Duncan. What do you think about these Spurs?
Yeah, I'm selling them just a little bit. I bet the regular season win total under 36.5. They only won 22 last year, and they didn't really tank that much. Wemby played a lot of games. CP3 is just in there to be a mentor for the Castle kid. I like the Barnes addition, I guess. It's still a very, very weird roster to me. And it's also a roster with 17 players on it, which shows me that they have a lot of tank options if they decide to go that route. They're missing a couple of key pieces. I think that they would definitely like to get a better starting shooting guard in there. Keldon Johnson hasn't remained healthy or consistent. Sashawn, they're going to build around Sashawn and Wemby. That's all there is to it. So yeah, under 36.5 is a bet for me.
Okay, moving on to the Northwest here, the Denver Nuggets. What do you make of the Nuggets?
Yeah, I can never bet against them because they have the best player, that I've seen in a long time. I would love to bet against them because I think that this team is absolute trash right now. I have no idea what they're doing. They're going to waste his golden years. But when you're starting Christian Braun as your point guard and then you're bringing Russell Westbrook off the bench, and that's your only addition when you could have gotten Jones, who went to Phoenix for for less money, makes no sense to me. MPG always has injury issues. That being said, Jokic is going to win a minimum of 45 games a year on his own. So it doesn't take a lot for them to beat you. And I don't know how you really beat this team with him on the court doing what he does. He's unbelievable. So yeah, no play there for me. I do show value in the under, but I'm just not that brave.
Got it. We talked about sort of the cat side of the Knicks and Timberwolves trade. Let's get to the Randall fit here in Minnesota. What do you think that looks like in the regular season for the Timberwolves now?
Yeah, I don't have anything here. I really like this team, but I feel like everybody does, and I don't like Conley. He's gotten old on me. I hope that Dante starts in front of him. It's also a really weird match now because I don't know why you needed Randall. Like, I just feel like if you were going to get rid of Cat, then you would have done something to really improve the point guard position. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, you still haven't solved your spacing issues. Your bench is pretty thin. I mean, like, TJ Warren's going to be playing some minutes. Ingles is in there. I guess Dillingham is a straight up scorer, which really, really I like the upside of him.
Yep.
But overall, I think that the market is pretty much priced correctly with this team.
Is that the case for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Yes. Oklahoma City, I love them. I mean, they've made me money the last 2 years, and they've been really, really good to me. I do not like the Caruso trade. It does not make any sense to me whatsoever. You already have Dort. Are you going to start Dort and Caruso in some games together? Because then why wouldn't teams just double SGA constantly and make Caruso and Dort beat you from the outside? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know that it's a playoff situation where you're getting Hartenstein, so that way he can eat into minutes with Holmgren. You can put him on the same court against Jokic, stuff like that. Regular season, they're going to win so many games. And I mean, I just don't know why they decided that they wanted to go all defense. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I will tell you that I think that SGA is probably the best MVP future out there for MVPs. I just think that if they win 60, 65 games or whatever they're being projected as,
yep,
he's going to get the points and he's going to get the recognition and the minutes. They're going to get a lot more attention this year than they have in the past years, and they have a great coach. I don't like the roster fits for this coach, though. I don't think that he's in charge of this system anymore. It really concerns me. I don't think that Hartenstein is his kind of player. I think he likes to play an open, wide system. So I'm a little bit worried in that sense. But, man, if Williams takes any kind of leap, if Holmgren takes any kind of leap, it's a really, really unstoppable team.
Yeah,
so,
Hartenstein already hurt as well after the
yeah.
next 6. A couple more here in this division before we move on to the Pacific. Portland Trailblazers. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to get some people upset that I know. I bet regular season win total over. I don't know how they're only 1.5 games better than they were last year at 22.5. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I realize that they don't have a lot of passing on this team, okay? Like, Scoot does not pass, Simons doesn't pass, Sharp doesn't pass. But let me tell you, Advia was a really, really good player, and he was my favorite addition maybe to any team in the offseason. They have a lot of great players on their bench. I don't know anything about Klingon, but if Williamson gives them any kind of minutes throughout the season, that's great. Ayton took a really big leap at the end of last year. I just don't understand how this team can only be 1.5 games better than last year when they started tanking around December 20th. If they're focused, then they're a really good team. That being said, they have the absolute worst head coach in the entire NBA. It's not close. He takes timeouts at the wrong time. I mean, me and you could probably do the same job that he does. I feel like he's just watching a lot of games. The roster just makes way too much sense for me to think that they're a 23-win or 22-win team. It's just not possible. It would basically take injuries and everybody regressing, which is possible when you do have Billups as the coach.
Right.
But I can't bank on that.
Yep. And then last team, Utah Jazz.
No idea what they're doing. Like, none. I don't know why they're not tanking. Doesn't make any sense to me. Why do you extend Laurie, but you don't bring any free agents around him? I don't get where they're going. George was absolutely terrific last year. He could take a leap. Sexton was really good. I'm starting to think that Clarkson's best years are behind him. Kessler makes absolutely no sense in this system that he runs. Everybody says Hardy's a great coach. I haven't seen any evidence of that. So yeah, I can never bet regular season win total under because they sell out every home game and they're such a tough spot to play at that your best teams are going to rest their players. So it's just a pass for me, but I have no idea what they're doing. Like, none. If you're going to build a team around Laurie, then do it. If you're not, then don't extend him and just tank for, every single road game for an entire season. Doesn't make any sense to me.
And then finally, are you an aging superstar on the last legs of your career? Well, this is the division for you, the Pacific division in the Western Conference. Golden State, an infusion of youth, right? A couple of moves at the margins there. What do you make of the Warriors this year, Eddie?
Well, I like them a lot, but I like them a lot every year. I didn't do anything with them futures-wise, but I'll tell you, I really like the Buddy Hield signing. I think he's a better player at this stage than Klay Thompson for what they need. They don't need a guy to go out and shoot 18 threes a night. They already have a superstar that does that effectively. And Buddy Hield can give you 8 quality looks every single night and play a little bit of defense. If Wiggins can come back and be like he was 2 years ago and Kuminga makes a step, there's a lot of upside with this team. There's no arguing it whatsoever. Any kind of injury and Wiggins ends up being Wiggins of the last couple of years, then you're really looking down the barrel. And I'm not going to go out and say that Kerr has had enough of Draymond, but how do you bet a regular season win total over when you have to reasonably expect, Green to miss at least 3 games to suspension each year? And he's a huge piece to what they do. They don't really have a defense without him. So yeah, Pods can make a big leap. Everything about this team, except for Green, him being himself and Curry's age really bother me. But otherwise, I think there's good upside here.
Yeah. The Clippers got the news, I believe it was yesterday, that Kawhi Leonard is going to be out indefinitely. Does that fundamentally change your view of this team, or where were you and where are you on?
I was already selling. It didn't really. I love Leonard. I think that he is probably one of the best two-way players of our generation. I don't think anybody gives more effort on defense and offense in a game-to-game. Him and Jimmy Butler and Paul George are kind of the players that you don't see anymore. They're just kind of generational. But that being said, with him being out, there's absolutely no way that you could possibly tell me that this might not be a lottery pick team. We're going to see a lot of Amir Coffey. We're going to see a ton of Terrence Mann. Norm Powell's going to start.
Yep.
I just don't know where the hell this team gets wins from. As a matter of fact, I don't think if they hadn't gotten the arena this year that they wouldn't have tried to ship most of these guys off and try to start rebuilding. That's a big deal. They've been waiting 50 years for it or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I know that ownership counts. I know that ownership cares. I think they have a crappy coach, quite honestly. I've never been a fan of his. Never understood why he's so revealed as a great guy. He's never won anything. So yeah, they're a sell for me, but the market is all over it. So I can't really suggest giving anything because the number has gotten away for sure. I think we were at 42 when this opened, and now we're down to 35 and a half or something like that. So everybody's selling them, which makes me think that they might be a good ATS spot at some point throughout the year, especially if Kawhi comes back and the market doesn't really realize how impactful he can be, which is probably not likely, but you never know.
Yeah, and then of course there are LA cohorts who they draft all to connect, who had an amazing night last night. What, he scored 20 straight? That was absurd. Whether he can do that in a regular season NBA game remains to be seen. But is he somebody that can elevate their ceiling enough to maybe get them back in the mix in the playoffs?
No. I kind of like the upside, and everybody told me I was crazy of taking him as rookie of year at 27-1 or whatever he was in the beginning stages there. But I don't think that the Lakers are serious about winning. So if you hire a guy who's never coached before based off of 12 podcasts that were edited, that kind of shows me where you're at. If you draft your generational player's son to get some photo ops, that doesn't help me either, to sell some tickets or whatever they're doing. I think Reeves is good. I've never seen anything from Rui that makes me think that he's going to be a top level player. AD was healthy for the first time in many years last year, and he showed what he's capable of. But how can I possibly think that him and LeBron are going to stay healthy at their age with their injury concerns for an entire season? I don't know where the production comes from that makes them any better than they were last year. If anything, I think that they're probably going to be worse than last year. just because I can't bank on them having that kind of health 2 years in a row. That being said, I'm right on the number for their regular season win total. I don't see any upside and doing anything with them futures wise currently.
New coach with the Phoenix Suns and Mike Budenholzer. Does that make a difference? What do you think?
Huge difference. First of all, Vogel was never a fit, especially once they traded for Beal. Like, how did they think that was going to work? Like, a defensive-minded guy is going to coach Booker and Beal every single night? That just didn't make any sense for me whatsoever. And probably the most impactful thing that they did besides the Budenholzer thing is getting Jones from Washington. He can run that offense, and he's a serious threat. He can take the heat off of the doubles that come at Booker. I like the upside of this team. I really do, but they're aging, and any kind of injury could really affect you.
That's right.
Don't get me wrong. Budenholzer is going to definitely do a lot with this team. That's going to make me excited to watch them every single night. I do like them to win the division, but it's priced properly. I really don't have anything here that I can give out at this point. But I mean, there's going to be different pieces throughout the entire year. People forget that you can bet NBA futures all year long. I think I'm looking if, Phoenix starts off cold and they have bad chemistry with the new coach early in the season, you can probably pick a pretty good price up to win the division or the conference. So I'm probably looking to go that route.
And then last but certainly not least, light the beam, the Sacramento Kings bring in DeMar DeRozan, who I'm trying to figure out exactly what he solves. What do you make of these Kings?
Yeah, I don't know what he solves. I don't. Okay, so I'm not going to lie to you. I was like super excited about the DeMar signing at first. And then I didn't realize that Herter is still hurt, it looks like. He didn't play in the preseason. I don't really have a timeline that makes a lot of sense for me with him. Keon Ellis is their only defensive player, which makes absolutely no sense to me that they keep him in the starting lineup. I know people have different thoughts and opinions on that. But, I mean, if they had another defensive piece, that would make sense. But putting him in a lineup with Fox, Monk, Sabonis, all these guys just score at will and at crazy, and they play at such a tempo that he kind of just takes away from your offense. And if you have one guy that's good on defense, what good does it do you if the other four don't count or the other four don't care? Also, I mean, this bench is pathetic. I mean, McDermott is playing serious minutes off the bench right now, and he's going to. I mean, anytime that Doug McDermott is like your go-to off of the bench, you got real issues. They didn't do absolutely anything for Sabonis either. Like, he's going to have to play 40 minutes a game again.
Yep.
And I mean, Alex Len is still his backup. I have absolutely no idea with all the big backups that were out there, why they thought DeMar was like who they needed. Like, they definitely needed Smith from Indiana, or Valanciunas that went to Washington would have been a good fit. Anybody that could have gotten Sabonis off of the court for maybe 12 to 15 minutes a night would have been a big plus. He goes off the court, and it's just a humongous minus to this team. So I don't have anything with them on the regular season win total. I probably need to relook it because I don't think that I realized the Herter situation as bad as it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You guys are going to have to make up your mind on that. But I hope that I gave everybody enough here.
I think you certainly did. I mean, we went through every single team one by one with the regular season starting on Tuesday. So I want to say thanks to everybody that joined us here for the NBA betting preview with Eddie Walls, one of the sharpest bettors when it comes to NBA and college football, taking some time with us today. Make sure you like and subscribe. Eddie, my friend, best of luck this year, and we'll be following, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one, and good luck, everybody, this entire season. Thanks so much.